Visits from a shadow person. This story took place in my parents' home. But before I tell my story, I want you to know I have never heard of a shadow person. I knew nothing about their existence, but that was about to change. In my childhood home, we had a lot of unexplained things happen. Lights would go on and off. The faucets would run. We heard walking in the hallway. We heard voices. We saw little twinkling lights that would dance around in the dark. I heard growling, and something even call my name. My sister had moved into my parents' house with her 2 children. She was going through a divorce and needed a place to stay. Their room was next to mine, connected by a bathroom that we shared. We had just woken up and it was early morning. I remember it like it was yesterday. The sun was shining through the window. I could see everything. I could hear my mother and sister talking in the kitchen. They were talking about me. See, I had just graduated from high school and didn't have any plans for college. I laid there listening to them. My mom said I was a screw-up. But to be fair, how was I to go to college without any money? My father made too much money for me to gain financial aid, and they didn't have anything put back for me. As I laid there listening, I started to cry. I must have fallen asleep. Next thing I noticed, my bed started shaking. I laid there for a minute thinking it was the washer shaking the house, but then it got to where the shaking was strong. I turned over and to my surprise there was a shadow in the shape of a human at the end of my bed. I didn't feel fearful, but then the shadow spoke. All it said was, "Hi, Elizabeth," and then it was gone. I got up after that, but I couldn't comprehend what I had just seen. After the incident, I did some research and discovered it was a shadow person. I have seen it a few times since then, but the strange thing is, it has never scared me, and it has not spoken to me since. The Lady in the Glass Case. The myths about the Galloway Lady in the Glass Case Memorial in Lakeview Cemetery, Jamestown, grow bigger with each passing generation. Speculation ranges from the untimely death of a young bride to the 50s version of the ultimate death on a prom date to a forbidden love between a rich heiress and her chauffeur. Some embellish the tale with reports that she roams the cemetery on dark and foggy nights, crying for her lost love. The more creative version is that the body of the young woman is encased within the statue itself. Grace Laverne Galloway was the only daughter of 3 children born to a wealthy family. Her father, John Galloway, had made his fortune in oil. They lived in a mansion that is now the Moose Club in Jamestown. She was a promising opera singer. Her family chose to send her to a Boston institute to study music. She was a young woman with career aspirations and little time for romance. Although she was said to be very friendly, outgoing, and generous with her time and money, including giving money to charitable works, the fact is, the best of Elizabeth Smith's knowledge, Grace Galloway was never seriously involved with anyone before her death at the young age of 26. When she died in 1898, it was from a case of tuberculosis contracted from her stay in Boston, not from a broken heart. Her parents, eager to find a cure, had sent her to North Carolina in the hope that she would recover. She died a year later in Pittsburgh. All of the Galloway money could not buy the life of their only daughter, Grace. Later, the family commissioned an artist in Italy to sculpt a statue modeled after the likeness of Grace. It was a monument to be built in living memory. The rest of the monument was constructed by John Galloway and his father. And when it became evident that the statue would eventually be destroyed by the elements, it was encased in glass. The life-size glass-enclosed statue of a young woman in Lakeview Cemetery attracts attention of thousands of persons each year. In 1985, I was an active member in the Moose Lodge in Jamestown, New York. On Thursday evenings, I played cards with my brother and the other friends at the lodge. We usually played in the dining room on the first floor, but when we had less players, we would play in the basement, On one particular night I arrived and went directly to the dining room to meet my friends, only to find my card friends were missing. They were playing in the basement. Earlier I had taken my jacket off and placed it over a chair in the dining room. Besides the main stairway from the entrance to the first floor, there was also a back stairway from the dining room to the basement. Leaving my jacket in the dining room, I proceeded down the back stairs to the basement. We played cards for about 3 hours. It was now 1 a.m. As everyone started leaving, I remembered my jacket upstairs. Everyone else began leaving through the main entrance. I went up to the dining room, got my jacket, and proceeded back down the stairs and onto the landing. And I came face to face with Grace Galloway. We were about 2 feet from each other. She just stood there looking at me, barely moving. I said nothing. She appeared to be startled, as was I, from our sudden encounter. She was partly transparent, white, a little shorter than me, and appeared to be calling me to follow her. The area where we were standing became very dry and cold. But I wasn't scared, and I stood there for about 30 seconds staring at her. I then walked briskly to the main entrance to meet my friends outside. I looked at my friends with a total horrified face and said, "I just saw Grace Galloway," and I explained what had just happened. Unfortunately, the building is planned to be razed this spring. Confirmation I see dead people. This happened over 5 years ago when I worked as a stylist at Head Shop in Tacoma. I worked there for several years. Our regulars became very close to us. Tyler used to come in once or twice a week, and I noticed for the last 2 weeks he hasn't been in. I didn't really think much of it. The next day he came in for his usual cut. I asked him where he's been, and he told me Arizona. He had his grandmother's funeral to go to. At that moment in time, I saw a woman standing behind him in full color, just like I see normal people day to day. When I saw that woman, I thought, oh, I just made her up in my head. That's what I think his grandmother looks like. So, I cashed him out, and then he left. I told my coworker I thought I just saw his grandma. She told me to tell him. I told her no. What if I'm wrong? Then I'll look stupid. Plus, if it's real, then I'm going to be that crazy lady. A couple weeks went by, and Tyler came back for his usual. At that moment, I was in the bathroom and came out from the back where he was. My friend Ashley told him, "Erica has something to tell you." So I gained up the courage and told him what I saw. I told him, "I think I saw your grandma standing behind you the other day." And he looked puzzled. I said, "She had blonde," and he finished with, "curly hair?" I confirmed, "Yes." I told him she was wearing a red shirt. And he said her favorite color was red. I also told him that she had a gold cross chain. He pulls out his phone and shows me a picture, and he says, "Like this?" Oh my gosh, it was her. It was the lady I saw standing behind you. She was still with you. Of course I screamed naturally, and he turned white as a ghost. But we both kind of stood there not knowing what else to say or do. And then I confirmed to myself that I saw a dead person. Clear as day. As I called it, he never came back. I must have scared him. But little does he know it scared me more.